negative. And on the converse, if your mindset is positive and open, you're going to have a little bit more engaged body language. And usually, not all the time, but usually the experience is better than what you thought it would be before it started. And
Right.
which is
And
a powerful lesson.
to go off of to backtrack with the idea of weather, I meant to say this earlier, is when you, me, or any of our facilitators go into a crappy weather like we are tomorrow, with our shoulders slunched and covering up our hood and miserable that we're out there, what do you think's gonna happen?
Oh, so what do you think the
Every,
kids are going to be too? Yeah, they're going to live
they're gonna
down to that.
exactly, they're gonna follow suit. So like, and without a doubt, there's not gonna be one kid that's gonna be having fun, even if they're one of the ones that would have had fun regardless. They're gonna follow us.
Yep.
So we go in there, head high, high energy, ready to go, regardless of how we're feeling internally, freezing hot, whatever situation that we're in. And sets the expectation, it sets the standard, as they say at my gym. So it sets the standard of what to expect from a program like that. And then you have the stragglers that you have to convince to participate. But 90% of them, they're like, okay, these guys are in it with us. Like, what do you think, that we're sitting in a booth and room temperature controlled, telling you what to do? Like,
Yeah,
no.
on like a
I, I'm,
microphone.
I'm, yeah, I'm out here with you. I'm sweating with you, or I'm freezing with you,
Yeah,
and look at my face.
yeah,
I'm geared up.
yeah,
So like,
yeah.
I think that's a huge part of what we do.
It's all about bringing the juice, man. That is such an important quality of a leader in any setting, because I love my job. I love work. I love Empower. I love what we do. There is not a ounce within me that second guesses that or doubts that. That being said, to be able to do the parts that I love, which is being in front of people and teaching and learning through play, there are some moments of, like, the necessary evil. Like, I'm not a big computer spreadsheet guy, if you couldn't tell. Uh, but like, putting my all into those types of tasks are what open up the doors for us to be able to do the fun stuff.
Right.
And the old, like, work hard, play hard kind of mentality, right? Like, you know, it's so common, like, especially working with youth groups. Like, I want to be the starting point guard for the basketball team in high school, or I want to play college football, or I want to be a veterinarian. Like, there's going to be a hell of a lot of level of challenge, on that journey. So, like, start to embrace the idea of, like, if this is what I want to do and this is what I think I'm going to love to do, there's going to have to be some moments where I'm doing something that I don't enjoy all that much.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a hell of a lot more enjoyable with positive chin up, chest back,
Yeah.
positive body language, and the juice, the energy.
I'm not the biggest sports follower, but I think it was either Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. He said that he hated every single minute of practice, every single second on the court that wasn't a game. He hated every shot that he took that wasn't in a game. But he did that for 6, 8, I don't know how many hours that they practice, to be able to be a champion player when the game starts. So
Yeah.
knowing that an all-star player like that and one of the best players in the world hated practicing every day, but they are who they are because they went through all of
Yep.
it. Yeah.
Yep. And I bet you I would bet, and again, I wasn't around to watch either of them practice, right? But I bet you if you showed up to a single one of those practices, there was no slouched over shoulders. There was no, MFing each other. There was no dragging the feet. Like, it was like, we're here and we're going to absolutely maximize the time. Because as we all, and this is something I think you get older, you start to kind of learn this a little harder, right? It's a little heavier of a hit, but, like, time investment you never get back,
Right.
right? So, like, if you and I go through the motions in a program, like, we'll never get to redo that. And that experience for that group of people we were in front of that we mailed in is going to be substandard, and we're never going to get, like, there's no reset button to get to do it again. So it's like, what do I need to do to be in a spot where it's not going to be perfect? It very rarely, if ever, is. But how are we going to maximize this time, this moment, this opportunity, and make the most out of it? And
Right.
again, it's a form of leadership. It's a self-coaching type thing. It's a peer-to-peer motivating type thing, because every once in a while we all need that kick in the rear end to get back on track. Um, but yeah, it's a powerful lesson, right? Body language and mindset absolutely has an impact on performance and experience.
For sure. I mean, to wind it back a little bit, when you are putting together a program, obviously weather is something that you can't control, but you can use during the actual activities themselves for that day, and prepare as much as possible. What else is it that goes into the design of going for a program?
Yeah, and this is we touched on kind of a higher level of this in our last episode, and that's a great question. So again, in the last episode, we had really reinforced the importance of, if you're looking to engage in team building, there's got to be some shared understanding of like what your group is, and what, who the people are and what they're all about, and what the desired outcomes are. Desired outcomes, and again, this is kind of a direct, a reflection of how I have this conversation on the phone. Like, oh, hey, Zach, you're interested in some team building with us. Like, tell me a little bit about your group, strengths, challenges, what you hope they get away from the experience. And I'll, receive that information and take some great notes. And then the next question is like, so team building can cover a wide range of experiences, I like to provide people who are inquiring with, like, we could do something that's purely fun, get the group together, very, very, very light facilitation, just really not for any other reason than, like, I don't know if you believe this, but I firmly believe, like, finding success is much more fun than finding failure over and over and over again. So, like, the facilitation and the fun group outing is really just like, take these things and use them because they're going to help you find success, and that's much more fun than struggling.
You're guiding them to get to a W. You're,
Yep.
you're helping them get to a win,
Yeah.
instead of leaving the game with the puzzle unfinished, or without completing it in a certain amount of time. It's not
Yep.
about that. It's about getting to the win.
Yep. So that's like, hey, our first kind of style of program is this fun group outing. Not a lot of heavy lifting as far as like facilitation is concerned. It's really just that. Take a break from the hustle, have some fun with the people that you are in the hustle with on a day-to-day basis. And at minimum, what you'll walk away with, you'll have some fun memories that you can talk about at the water cooler the next day, talk about at the desks, so on and so forth. I don't even know if people do water coolers anymore, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The other end of this, the kind of this facilitation spectrum, is our professional development. And this is where we're getting a little bit more into, like, this group is either facing some legit challenges in their day to day, and they need some sort of low risk experience to help them develop the capacity to overcome those challenges down the road. And we'll get into the different types of groups and maybe some of the common challenges. Or it's we do a lot, like, with camp counselors. In June, I think the past couple Junes we've done like 25 municipal summer camp staff training events.
Yep.
And that style of professional development might be some simple group management tactics, like, where do you stand when you're presenting an activity to your group? How often do you move around, and where do you position yourself? How do you gain the attention of the group without screaming at them? It could then go deeper into that about, we do a lot of, like, train the trainer. Here's a list of 10 activities we're going to teach you today, and you have all the resources and equipment that you need to run the activity in your camp setting. So now you're going to have a little bit more wherewithal of how to actually deliver that experience. We've done a lot with, like, in the corporate setting, where we might do a little bit focus on gaining a greater understanding of team members, and in very high level general terms, like people strategies. So often, and we see this a lot in our work, like, so often there's like a beef between two participants, and it's Zach's fault. No, Zach's saying it's Dan's fault. We're saying it's someone else's fault. And really, at the end of the day, we all contribute to the fault. And it's like, instead of pointing fingers at each other and playing the blame game, like, can we just find common ground? And people strategies and understanding what makes Zach tick and what makes the other person tick, and like having a greater understanding of that and appreciation for that as a leader is going to allow you to kind of bring the best out of the people that you're working with.
I think that's a huge one, is self-awareness of what you're doing without realizing it.
Yep.
Like you guys have the same goal. I say this all over and over again. The outcome you want is the same. Doing it is going to be completely different. Maybe my idea is not good or bad. It's just different from yours.
Yep.
And my idea, it is what it is because of how I grew up and my experiences and my personality and all these different contributing factors. And it might be completely head butted with somebody else's ideas and the way they get to a similar goal. But our job is to realize that these two things can actually work together really well if you just understood, like, Bob is a different person than me, or Susie Sue is a different person than me, and they might, although we might not get along, we're trying to get to the same thing. So let's try to help each other out do it. And like you see it over and over again, like, okay, I'll try. And then all of a sudden they're like working like a machine like unit. And it's just being open to their ideas.
Yep. And aware of it too. I think like so often we just chalk it up to we're just different. We're not going to work. We just can't work together versus like, oh, Dan approaches these situations this way because, and Zach approaches these situations this way because. Now that we have a better understanding of it, maybe we're a little bit more open to like move towards some sort of middle ground and pull in the same direction as opposed to pulling against each other.
Exactly.
And then, so we started off with kind of the two types of programs that are less common, the straight up pure fun outing, and then your professional development or essential skill development. We would call it for like a youth group. The middle bucket, which is we call collaborative skill building, is probably where like 70% of our programs fall. And it is not for like this specialized group of leaders or captains or department chairs. It's not for, it's not designed to replace like going to the bowling lounge and having a couple cocktails on a Friday afternoon. This is a program style for everybody that will have elements of fun, will have elements of challenge and struggle, and most importantly, will have elements of learning. And that's so, you look at these three types of programs, pure fun on one side, heavier towards the learning on the other side, and then the middle, there's that combination. And would you agree that's like where most of our groups land? Is yes. Like, yeah, we want to have a great experience, but we also want to make sure our group leaves with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, for sure. Like as fun as the fun ones are, I guess you would say, it's cooler to mix the two together because we are going to have some fun today. We are going to run around, walk around, and get loose with each other when it comes to a different environment than what they're used to from work, school, or sport. But we're also gonna learn some things today, and that's illustrated and communicated at the beginning so that when we do finish an activity, or not even finish, when we're halfway through the activity, we kind of have this pullback time of like, okay, hands down, pencils down, puzzle down, activity down, what's going on during this time that we can learn from.
Yep. And then again, for people's kind of reference, just to have some mental framework. So like, fun group outing is just that. A lot of times, with bigger groups in particular, there's like a fun competitive element where we might split a group of 50 into like 6 teams of 8 or 9, and they would run through these kind of short-winded kind of activity challenge stations, and it's points based. Think like a team building version of like your old PE class, like field day, right? The group outing is driven a little bit more by specific outcomes, with fun being one of those specific outcomes. That is a little bit more structured, as Zach just touched on. I got you. As Zach just touched on, there's like, let's pause, let's figure out like what's happening, why it's happening, and what we can do about it. So there's a little bit, there's more of those moments. And then professional development is more, think of like that workshop. And I could confidently say we don't do those like we're going to go in and talk at you for 3 hours professional development. It is still experience driven, but it is definitely more outcome driven as well. So again, why are we talking about this stuff? Because if you are an individual who's looking to schedule some sort of like team building experience for their group, I think it's important to know the difference between the different types of programming styles and making sure that you're expressing that to whoever you're on the phone with. Like, hey, our group doesn't need any teaching and learning. Like we just wrapped up. Like I look at like accounting, like accounting firms.
Yeah.
Like they go through tax season and they're probably working like 23 and a half hours a day. Like when that's over, they don't need somebody to come in and be like, there's no trust here and this is what we're going to do to rebuild it. Like they need to release. Yeah. Like let's go have some fun. And then you might look at, recently I worked with a school out in Glastonbury with their student council, 5th and 6th grade student councils, students. And they're right at the start of the school year. It was a mix of like fun bonding, but we also wanted to make sure some learning took place because these students are going to have responsibilities, kind of above and beyond the other students in the building throughout the school year. And if they're not prepared for that, they're not going to be able to do the best job that they can do in their role as student council members. So, again, if you're on the phone inquiring about team building, make sure you know what your ideal takeaways are and then express that in we need just fun, we want a little bit of mix of fun and learning, or this is either one of those break glass in case of emergency situations and our team is really struggling, or we just have a group that's hungry and wants to kind of take their leadership to the next level where you might lean a little bit more towards that like professional development type of experience. So
and I'll elaborate on that too. As an event coordinator is what we call them, whether you're the coach or the teacher or the office manager, understanding what your team needs is a skill in itself.
Yep.
Because you see the work getting done, but if it's getting done miserably and people aren't working at full capacity, you don't know what really they're capable of, or vice versa. There's a lot of fun happening in the office, but not a lot of work. There's a thousand different scenarios that you can think of, but you recognizing that is actually part of a good leader. So when you come to empower, like, hey, this is what's going on. The more we know, the better outcome that you're going to get with a program, because the better we're prepared of designing it.
Yeah, 100%. And like, again, our during this podcast, we're always going to try to introduce some level of like content that can kind of open up and have you I guess develop a greater understanding of what like team building really can look, sound, feel like, but also some tangible takeaways. In our last episode, we talked about and introduced the Art Forgery Initiative, which is a really fun, really cool, popular activity that we run in quite a few of our different programs. For today's takeaway, get on the computer, look up Bruce Tuckman, Stages of Group Development. I want to say the initial study was in like 1965. And again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but in Tuckman's research, in the initial research, he identified 4 stages of group development. These are not necessarily sequential, and it's also not a situation where like once a group completes one phase, it's guaranteed that they're always going to move forward towards the next phase. So this is fluid, but in Tuckman's original study, the 4 stages of group development that he introduces are forming, storming, norming, and performing. And then a little bit later down the line, there was a 5th stage added called adjourning. So like, and again, go online, Bruce Tuckman, Stages of Group Development. It is, I want to say it's somewhat commonsensical, but it is such important information. And it's really, when I'm on the phone with a potential client, this is the information that I'm trying to pull from the conversation, because that identifying what category the group is in or what stage of development the group is in is going to be the driving force for what we put together as far as a program or some different options to choose from. The 4 stages, again, forming, storming, norming, performing, and then later on the 5th stage was added, adjourning. Forming new group of people coming together. Typically, a couple characteristics. Generally, people put a pretty thick social guard, social barrier up in these situations because everybody's trying to figure everybody out. Everybody's trying to see like what's the rank and file in this group of 30 that I'm thrust into. So everybody's kind of playing it pretty close to the vest. You're not seeing a lot of conflict, and you're seeing almost like these shields or barriers put up, and everybody tiptoeing. What's Zack all about? What's this person all about? What's that person all about? What's the typically groups that are heavily in the forming stage, they're going to need a program or an experience where there's a lot of those engager, icebreaker style activities, right? To foster that relationship development and start to chip away at the social barriers that people put up when they go into new situations.
Right.
Stage 2 is the storming phase. Storming phase happens after the forming has kind of settled, right? And everybody kind of feels where they're at in the rank and file. However, this is where you'll start to see some of those struggles for power within the group, where you might see Zack, who thinks he's the alpha. You might see Dana, who thinks she's the alpha. And you might start to see these kind of struggles for power within the group, and to a point where you'll see some cliques start to develop, like, I'm on team Zack, I'm on team Dana, I'm on team this person. And there's really this kind of air of conflict and like a power struggle essentially within the team. If you feel like your team is in that stage, you need an experience that is straight up collaborative. The word competition shouldn't even be brought up. Everything should be run so that I can't do what I need to do unless Zack chips in, and vice versa. It's like really, really, really heavy-handed on the side of collaboration. In the norming phase, this is when people finally start to accept where they fall in like the power hierarchy within the team. However, they don't necessarily fully agree with it. They start to accept like, oh, I'm here. I'm just the bottom man on the barrel. This is what it is. In the norming phase, you can almost call it like the settle phase, and it almost turns into like, it's good enough. So, if you feel like your group is in like this settling norming phase, the type of program I think is important is starting to get people in some of those activities that have very different defined roles, and starting to get people in spots where either they have to play a specific role based on their strengths, or they have to be put into a position where they're in kind of a role that exposes some of their weaknesses, where they really, really have to rely on not just the teammates, but the very specific roles. And like, if Zack's doing role A to the best of his ability, and person 2 is doing role B, and I'm doing role C, it's going to come together, and we're going to be really supportive of each other for like that shared goal, whatever it is, achieving that shared goal. Groups that are in the performing stage, this is when they're not settled into a role. This is when every individual that's part of the group is placed into or slotted into the role that is perfect for their skills, abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. Synergy is like the buzzword that's out there now. Like, we want synergistic approaches. The performing stage is what synergy is, right? Zack is in the perfect spot for his skill set. I'm in the perfect spot for my skill set. Everybody else, every other member of the group is in their perfect spot to maximize their skill set. And in doing so, we are high performing, because by maximizing our skill sets, we're also supporting each other's weaknesses and challenges. In my opinion, when groups are in the performing stage, this is when I want to rile up some conflict. This is when I want to kind of almost take them back to the storming phase to see if they can do things a little bit differently to take their performance, maybe even if it's just an inch further than what it currently is. And then in the adjourning phase, the kind of category of the adjourning phase is just like this. Think of like the end of a sports season, like a high school sports season. This same group of people that were on this team for the past however many months, however many years, it's about to come to an end. We're at our last game, right? We're at the last day of school. We're the last day before a corporate reshuffle, and we're kind of celebrating the ending of like what this specific team is. And in those instances, in my opinion, again, I would never try to like sell you a skill building or professional development program.
Right.
Any group that's in that adjourning phase should leave it as like, let's go do one of those fun group outings and celebrate what we accomplished, celebrate the people that we accomplished with, and make sure everybody's ready for whatever their next adventure is. So hopefully some helpful information for the listener. Again, if you're looking to engage in some sort of team building program, if there's not a conversation happening about your group, their dynamic, their strengths, their weaknesses, and your desired outcomes, it might be time to either bring that stuff up or hang it up and find another organization that'll ask you those questions. So what do you think?
I mean, you made a lot of good points. I think there's one last thing that I would take away is that regardless of what your group is in prior to the event, I've seen it, you see it over and over again, where those stages are transformed throughout the event, throughout our program. You see going from storming to norming all the time. It's the transformation of comfortability amongst the group of what their goals are throughout. And I'll say one more thing. It doesn't matter who we're in front of, rather what category of age or sport or school or office that you're in. These things happen in every kind of group that we're in front of. It's another podcast that we can talk about where the development amongst the group is going to be the same. I don't care if you're 15 years old or 55 years old. You see the same kind of traits happen in those activities.
Yeah. You see a lot of the same behaviors and a lot of the same interactions and a lot of the same kind of progress, across these different stages. And you're right. It could happen within a program. It could happen within one activity.
Right.
In a program. So, which, I think reinforces this idea. Leadership is difficult because it's a people thing, right? It's a people business, and everybody has their own different style and their own strengths and weaknesses and their own different ways to go about things. And then when someone's maybe removed from a group for a temporary reason or even permanently, it could have this kind of big effect where your group is bouncing around because it's different now. Yeah. So again, making sure you're doing your diligence. If you're on the phone with somebody talking, inquiring about team building, making sure that you're having those types of conversations. If not, you are probably going to end up in one of those situations where you thought the experience is going to be one thing, the organizer thought it was going to be another thing, and it didn't really work out well for anybody. So it's avoidable. Again, a little extra work on the front end saves a lot of time and headaches when you're in the moment. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Zach, always a pleasure, dude. We are closing up shop here on episode 3 of the Lead with Empower podcast. Check it out on our YouTube channel. We'll have it posted up on our social platforms, most notably Instagram. Handle is Lead with Empower, and our website is leadwithempower.com. Thank you so much for checking it out. Go out there and dominate the next challenge in front of you. Have a good one. Thank you.